Hey nannies, it's Michelle from Nannies on Call, and today we are going to talk a little bit about some tips that you should look for, or red flags that you should look for when you're interviewing with a family for the first time. I have my notebook here, so I'm just going to try and get through it all in one take and not worry about cutting and editing it back together. So here we go. So the first tip would be not meeting the kids should be your first red flag. We know that during COVID, things are really difficult and families are often interviewing you by video for the first time. And that's okay. But before you accept a job, you should definitely meet the children and interact with them and see if it's a good fit for you. We've talked to many nannies during COVID who have said that they did not meet the kids before they started. And then when they started, they realized very quickly it wasn't a good fit. So make sure you meet the children and that you interact with them and that you have a good relationship or a good rapport that you think you can build on moving forward if you work for the family. The second thing is, if you work through an agency like Nannies on Call, like us, this is not if you work and find jobs on your own, but if you work for an agency and we're helping you and we're pre-screening you and we're setting up the interviews, if the family asks you to work directly with them and cut out the agency, that should be a red flag. If the family's willing to cut us out of the picture and are trying to not pay the fee that it costs to work with us, then they will likely screw you over, no nicer way to say it, down the road as well. So you really want to be careful with that. I know it seems appealing because you're desperate for a job, but the reality is the nanny agency puts in a lot of work. The family has agreed to pay the fee to find a great nanny like you. So you shouldn't go around behind their back, because likely if the family's willing to not pay us, they likely won't pay you for something down the road. So just keep that in mind. So tip number 3, asking for extra things that you didn't see in the job posting. So let's just say in the job posting it says child-related duties only. It doesn't say anything about housekeeping, and it doesn't say anything about meal prep. Then you get to the interview and the family's like, oh yeah, no, we need housekeeping and we want you to do dinner every night, and oh, and the kids need help with homework, and I'd like you to take the dog for a walk every day. That should be a red flag. Again, not necessarily something you can't work through, but if they haven't put that in the job posting, and now between the job posting and your interview, they've added things, I can guarantee you between your interview and you being hired and starting in the first month, they're gonna add more things. So just make sure you're really clear on the job expectations so that there's no confusion later if you accept one wage and then they keep adding duties and you're thinking, well, I would ask for more money. So it should be a red flag and you should be aware of it. A lot of families we've heard are offering cash. We understand that from the nanny's point of view, it seems like this might be a good deal. This seems like something where you're thinking, well, I make more money and I don't have to pay tax. But unfortunately, what we saw at the beginning of COVID is a lot of the nannies who had accepted cash jobs couldn't apply for COVID, and they were calling us panicked. Not nannies we placed. We always make sure Nannies on Call places legally, but a lot of nannies were calling us for advice and they hadn't been paid legally and now they couldn't collect money. So you want to pay your taxes so that you can collect EI. It also helps you if you want to ever buy a house, buy a car, you need to have your T4 for some of those things. So make sure you're paid legally and don't accept cash deals. So one of the last tips is how does the family treat their children? So going back to the one where we say it's really important that you meet the children in the interview, this one has to do with that. So you want to see how the family interacts. So how do the parents treat the children? How do the children respond? Do they talk back to their parents? Do they listen when their parents ask them to do things? These are all tips on how the interaction is going to be when you work there. So again, not something that should stop you from working for a family, but definitely a red flag. If you see behavior you don't like at the interview, that's behavior you're going to continue to see as you work for the family. Lastly, and it goes to watching how they interact with the kids, you also want to check out the environment. So when you come to the home for your interview, you want to see, is the house clean? Is it messy? are there dishes in the kitchen? I know sometimes you won't see the whole house, but you'll see certain areas, and you want to take it all in when you go there. And the reason for that is if they have a messy home and they knew you were coming, this is probably the cleanest you're ever going to see it. And that's okay for some nannies. Some nannies don't mind that. But if you like to work in a clean home, that's going to be a problem for you. So that should be a red flag. Or if there's clutter everywhere, it's clean, but there's clutter everywhere, and you can't work in a cluttered environment, that's not going to work for you as a nanny. So these are things that you have to look at when you're working for or when you're thinking about working for a family at the interview stage. Again, red flags, they're things that you should be aware of with every family you're interviewing, but it's not a deal breaker. They are things that you can talk through, communicate, and work out before you start for the family if you feel that's something you can do. So hopefully that's helpful. And if you have any questions, put them below and we'll try and answer them. And if you have any ideas of videos you want to see, we'd be happy to hear from you and see if we can record a video and tell you all about it in the future. Hopefully that helps, and have a great day and rest of your week. Talk to you soon.